This is the commentary box.
To me, tweeting was something that birds did.
Dilly din, dilly dong, come on!
Éder vai aguentar bem, encosta ele e falta apoio ali sobre o lado direito. Sai, remate e o gol!
From a yard out, he couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo.
And the celebrations begin.
Hello and welcome to the commentary box. In a week with Italian defending, pitch invasions and another Rooney missed penalty, we try and digest the footballing action. Of course, you are joined by me, Sam, and a very happy Gills fan at the moment.
Yes, we had a very, very good 3-1 away win at Portsmouth. I was there with a couple of my mates to see some really good goals from being 1-0 down at half-time, and no, really
Wasn't
happy.
One of the goal of the week almost, I think? Or
Yeah, it was a really, really good goal. It was sort of something you'd see sort of Salah score on his left foot. Chipped it over a player, took it past another and then smacked it bottom corner. No, it was a really good day out, very good atmosphere, and some very unhappy Portsmouth fans.
So, of course, it was Mother's Day yesterday, of course, and I saw something come up on my Instagram feed, I think it was, and it was a picture of in 2015, Ajax apparently had their mascots as mothers.
I remember seeing that.
Yes, and that kind of made me think about, what if you had fully grown men or women as mascots? That would be a bit cringy, wouldn't it? If you saw like a middle-aged man holding the hand of a football player coming out of the pitch, just a weird thought, isn't it?
Yeah, I can see the mother.
Yeah, that was a nice thing to do. Yeah,
the children, but imagine just like Gaz from down the road holding like
Salah's hand.
It would be
a bit odd, wouldn't it?
A bit weird.
Anyways, without further ado, what's coming up in today's podcast is we're going to do a BPL Roundup. We're going to talk a bit about Pardew and if West Brom are doomed, and then we'll be getting on to Glenn Murray and if he is really a possibility for the England squad in Russia for the World Cup. So, with no further ado, we shall move on to the BPL Roundup.
Yeah, so we had Saturday's games, and a big one to start off with: Manchester United beating Liverpool 2-1. 2 goals from Rashford and some really good. Well, the first one anyway was a good, well taken goal. It was a very quick turn. I think it was against Alexander Arnold, the right back for Liverpool, and he turned inside and he sort of, you know, those sort of placing shots when he goes into the far corner, but it was hit with a lot of speed and venom. It was really, really good, and Liverpool didn't really seem to get any decent chances. They did get a goal from a Bailly own goal, but not much there. Then we got Everton beating Brighton 2-0. The Everton striker Toussaint, I always fail to pronounce his name.
Yes, the Turkish striker.
Yeah, he got a goal, and Knockaert got a red card in that one.
And Rooney missed his 3rd penalty of the season, which meant that Allardyce came out afterwards and basically said Rooney's not taking penalties anymore.
Yeah, I think he's had that's 3 strikes and he's out. He won't be taking any more for them. Then Huddersfield had a draw against you, Sam, against Swansea. You got a red card in this, and from what I heard, Huddersfield had about 30 shots and Swansea had none.
Yes, they basically, as you may know, like, you know how you play FIFA or Football Manager and you could get like FIFA'd or FM'd. Well, this was basically what happened. Of course, Ayew got sent off rather controversially against Huddersfield, because both the Huddersfield player and the Swansea player kind of both were making the same tackle kind of off the ground with studs up. It's just that Ayew's looked a bit worse, but it was still the same thing, that he got sent off in the end, which was a bit unlucky for Ayew and Swansea. But Swansea, of course, Italian defending with some Portuguese masterminding behind it from Carvajal. We managed to keep a clean sheet after 30 shots against us to 0, and they had 81% possession to our 19%, which was crazy to think about how we got a 0-0 there. So I'm very happy with that. It felt like a win.
Yeah, a good away point. Then Newcastle got a quite convincing 3-0 win against Southampton. Southampton just not really picking up any sort of form at all this season. They've just sort of been struggling, and it's been, well, they've got good players and they're a good team, and will they still do it? But possible relegation?
Definitely, I really do. I mean, Pellegrino, the manager, came out and said basically the Southampton players gave up. They just kind of didn't look at all good. They misplacing passes. They had no purpose, which is complete opposite to what Newcastle were playing like, because they had a purpose. They were passing nicely, they were making good moves, but Southampton were just kind of doing nothing in the whole game. And I think if they don't turn round their form, they could be definitely going down this season.
Yeah, because sort of on paper, I'd definitely say Newcastle would not have a better squad than Southampton, but I think that's where the manager really plays a big difference. Obviously, Benitez being a very experienced manager, getting that squad fired up and ready and working hard to get a good convincing win. Then we had West Bromwich Albion 1, Leicester 4. I saw some of the goals for this, and Leicester did score some decent goals. Rondon's goal was actually quite good as well, from a cross, managed to sort of flick it on. It was quite a hard angle, but he managed to do it. But another loss for West Brom,
which we'll be kind of discussing and dissecting later, of course, in the show.
We'll get into that a bit later. Then West Ham 0, Burnley 3. Burnley scored some good goals in this. A lot of good link-up play. Barnes got a very good goal.
Yeah.
Hart did make a mistake for Chris Wood's goal. It was sort of a low shot at Hart. It sort of went down to sort of almost cup it into his chest, and it just sort of hit off him. Then Hart went to close him down, and then it went in. And I was watching it, I was thinking, I think there's a lot of pressure on him to perform well to the end of the season, to have a chance of even being taken potentially first pick. And I think my views now on that might have changed. And I don't think Hart should be number one, and I don't think he will be number one either. I
mean, that was his first game since January. Adrian's kind of had to step in to that role, and both of them haven't looked convincing, but it's a shame for Hart because he's got so much pressure on him to try and get that number one spot, and I think it's getting to him again, like it was at Manchester City a few years back, when kind of the pressure on his back, and it made the situation a lot worse for him. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of turns out with the England goalkeeper position. I mean, I think our first show was about England keeper position, so if you want to check that out on YouTube, you can do, of course. On that note as well, that whole game was kind of shrouded by the West Ham pitch invasion, which was basically in protest of the owners. And I think I heard somewhere one of the owners, Sullivan, got hit by a coin from one of the
coin throwing, chanting things like they've ruined the club. There were fans on the pitch many times throughout the game picking up corner flags. When West Ham, some of the fans, they ran on the pitch to invade it. Like Mark Noble was getting very angry, and there's a thing where Hart had to even pull Noble away from a fan because he was getting just so aggressive towards him for being on the pitch. And then when that West Ham fan then went off the pitch to get back into the crowd, those West Ham fans then started attacking him. So it was just a really embarrassing moment for the West Ham, the club, and it just shows that there's been some poor management decisions. The fans really aren't happy, and I think it's just a case of they don't really feel like they're being listened to. I know with Chelsea, I know Abramovich, he has meetings with not just sort of general fans, but fans who are sort of in charge of wider societies in the community and who support Chelsea. And I know that he does things, he finds out sort of what's going wrong, what do they want, and it sort of helps to keep those fans happy. I don't really see many problems with Chelsea,
especially with the fans. It's kind of all very.
At Arsenal, you see the opposite of that, and at West Ham, you see the opposite of that. And it's really crucial you get a good sort of owner and management who respect and take in what the fans want. It's not sort of a bad thing to do that. I think some owners think, I'm going to do it my way, this is the right way, but quite often you do have to listen to fans, and I think it's a case where they should have, really. And then the last game on Saturday was Chelsea 2, Palace 1. I don't know too much about that, but obviously a win that Chelsea should want. A late goal from Van Aanholt, and there was a moment, I think I heard about, there was a bit of worry when Van Aanholt got that goal that there could have been comeback.
And there was a few disallowed goals as well. I think there was one disallowed goal for Crystal Palace, which is a bit dubious in the end, but it could have changed the game completely. And of course tonight we've got one more game, which was is going to be occurring for you on Monday night and for us tonight, and that is Stoke against Manchester City.
Yes. The Sunday games. Yes, forgot about that.
Sunday games, yes.
3, Watford 0. I think in this it was Mkhitaryan set up Aubameyang and Aubameyang then set up Mkhitaryan for their goals.
Yep.
The old Dortmund duo.
Yep.
And then it was Bournemouth 1, Tottenham 4, and I think Kane picked up an injury in this.
And he's looking doubtful for the World Cup now, I think.
Really?
Yes.
Is it that bad?
Yes. I think we learn more news as the week goes on, but that kind of will bring us on to kind of how Glenn Murray might find his way into the England squad.
Yes, indeed.
But before we go on to that, of course, we said we were going to talk about Pardew and West Brom, so we shall. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of been going on for a while now, this poor form from West Brom. It's not very good. Some people thought, would there be a change or something? We obviously knew that West Brom changed their manager. They got rid of Pulisic and brought in Pardew.
In October, November time, wasn't it?
Yeah, some fans are like, this is the change. Some were sort of the not.
Sceptical from the start, really, weren't they?
Come out about West Brom all the time, such as the Rodriguez thing with a bit of racism going on with the Brighton player Bong. They had things about when they went to Barcelona and there was a couple of players, including Johnny Evans and David Myhill, who stole a taxi or something like that because they were late getting back to their hotel. It just really hasn't been good. If I just look at their last...
I mean, I've actually got some
Oh, here we go. We've got stat attack inbound.
They've only got 8 games remaining, and they're 7 points off Stoke and 8 points off Southampton to safety. And they're not most likely going to get 8 points, let alone get more than Stoke and Southampton to kind of overtake them. I mean, just some of their games they've got, I think that Liverpool are involved. They got Crystal Palace on the final day, which might be crucial for both teams, but I just can't see them picking up more than 8 points in 8 games, their current form. I mean, they've only won once since October when Pulis was sacked. Yeah, and one of those, I think that was in the Premier League, and they got 1 of 2 wins in the FA Cup, including the one against Liverpool. But the only Premier League win they've had was against Brighton, 2-0.
Wow.
Since then.
If you can't pick up points against those, it's really not going to be good. Like, I'm just looking here on their last 4 games, they've lost every single one. It's not good form for them, and I think even if they start drawing games, they will not survive, and I think they are dead and buried at the moment. And that kind of brings us on to the poll we ran. We asked you on Twitter, which you can follow us on Twitter, which is at Box Commentary, whether you thought West Brom were doomed to relegation, and we actually had a very good turnout on the vote with 35 votes. 97% of you said they were doomed, and only 3% of people said there was still hope. So that's about 2 people out of 35, or 1 person out of 35, thinking that it's not going to happen. Then they're going to go down. Yeah, I think we both agreed on this one that we thought the West Brom would go down. I think just looking at the form they've been in, like that stat there, the 1 win since October is really, really shocking. And yes, they might get a draw every now and again or a good FA Cup win, but that's really has to inspire form in the league. But I think sort of looking at a bigger picture here, if you sort of already say that West Brom are going to go down, so the next question is, are they going to keep Pardew?
Probably not.
Do you think they're going to get rid of him?
Yeah, I think he actually even had to come out in an interview saying, I still care, because I think lots of the West Brom fans were thinking that he doesn't even care, and he had to say he cared in front of the media to make people believe that. And so, and if I see him on the touchline and in press conferences, he just looks sad, doesn't he? And I think he wants to get out. He's made the wrong move. I think West Brom have made the wrong move for everyone, and I think both the manager and the club need to go their separate ways, especially if they go down.
Yeah, I think they sort of brought Pardew in to keep them up, and if they don't, obviously that will not sort of give any reasoning behind it, unless West Brom are looking for more the long term.
But even then, if you think 1 win, then
I would agree. I think I would sack Pardew, but would you sack him? Because there was a thing with Gillingham where we sacked a manager near the end of the season. He wasn't doing very well, and we were sort of going to be mid-table, weren't really going to go anywhere. And we got in a new manager, and it gave him a bit of time to sort of get things going and sort of get to know the squad. And then we had pre-season to sort of fill in those sort of holes. And then going into the next season, we had quite a good start. And I felt like having that little bit of experience already in the league did sort of help sort of get to know who's good, who's bad, where our weaknesses. Just wonder if sort of maybe once West Brom are confirmed to be relegated, will West Brom then sack their manager and possibly get another one in just to have that sort of little bit of experience?
Don't know.
They might wait till the end of the season.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But in that situation, you were mid-table, weren't you, Gillingham? In that,
it wasn't going to matter.
So it didn't really matter. But at this point, though West Brom are basically relegated, the form or the morale in the team is so bad, and there's going to be such a big change when they do get relegated, with many players leaving the club. And would it really be helpful for a manager to kind of see what he doesn't have in the future and kind of have to deal with the morale straight away and maybe get into conflict because of the morale? And wouldn't it just be better for him or her to start fresh in the new season?
Yeah, no, interesting point there. I think you're right.
Yeah.
If a manager comes in and he goes, okay, we might try and play like this, and then 2 or 3 players leave. I think if they were going to bring in a manager when they get sacked, he would have to be a big name manager that players will then want to stay. So you've got the better players.
Yeah.
Try get some other ones in someone who maybe plays in the Premier League and play that often, wouldn't mind dropping down if the sort of thing going to go back up. A bit like with Villa and John Terry and a couple of other players who went there.
Snodgrass. Yeah.
Steve Bruce was there, and they thought, you know what, they're in good form, they're doing well, they've got some good young players, massive club. It's sort of worth it, and it's looking like Villa are going to go up. So could potentially be that.
Mm-hmm. I think that wraps up the talk about West Brom. Of course, if you want to let us know your opinions, maybe you're a West Brom fan and you think we're completely wrong and you think you've still got a chance, please do contact us via Twitter, which is at Box Commentary, or via email, which is the Commentary Box footballpodcast.contact@gmail.com.
Indeed.
Anyways, that brings us on to Glenn Murray. Yes, of course. In the media, people have been saying that Glenn Murray has been tipped for the England team, and we're kind of here to discuss whether that's going to be a reality. And all I can think about at the moment is about Ricky Lambert. Because I don't know, do you remember Ricky Lambert getting in the England squad, scoring against Scotland, I think? And
scored a header, came off.
And could it be a similar situation where a kind of an old striker who's been in and out in the Premier League, been in the lower leagues, kind of not your big name striker, can they get at that point in the career where they're about 30 and get into the England squad? I mean, is this realistic for Glenn Murray to be dreaming in, for Southgate to be kind of looking at him as a potential striker?
Yeah, I don't know. Before I was like, no. Why would we do that? But then I thought, well, if Kane, let's say Kane is injured,
which he could be,
we look at other England strikers. We've got Jamie Vardy, probably going to be the main one there.
Rooney,
I think
he's retired though. He's retired from international football.
So he won't. So you got Vardy up front, and then you've got maybe Welbeck, who never gets in.
I've got a few stats for this.
Here you
go. So Kane, of course, is the top English scorer in the Premier League with 24 goals. Then you've got Sterling, who's got 15, but I don't think Southgate would want him to play in a kind of a striker role.
I think he does very well out there on the left.
You've got Vardy, 14, and then you've got Murray, he's the 4th top scorer for English players in the Premier League with 11 goals. I mean, and then you go down further and you got Rooney at 10, and then I think that's about it on the scoreboard, really. I mean, I guess Welbeck's got a few, Abraham's got a few, Defoe's got a few, but they're not scoring regularly and they're not playing regularly, as you said, either.
Yeah, I think with that, I don't know who Murray does score against, but if he has been getting goals against maybe the Everton, the Liverpool, Arsenal, the higher teams in the league,
Swansea.
although Brighton may not be beating them, if he is getting into those positions against quality opposition, I don't see any reason why he may not be in the running for it. However, if he's getting most of his goals against teams possibly around like Newcastle and West Brom, maybe that. I think with him you have to look more in depth on where his goals are coming from, obviously.
But it's still Premier League goals, aren't they? Yeah,
it's still Premier League goals, but I just feel if you look at Harry Kane, he scores against pretty much every team. So sometimes he maybe is against Johnny Evans and he gets round him. You could think, well, I expect that. But then you might see Harry Kane going past Otamendi or Eric Bailly or Gary Cahill, and you think, there we go, that's more of the quality that we're looking for to beat those better goalkeepers. And there could be sort of mistakes or poor defensive errors that lead to Murray scoring sort of the easier game, so to speak. I think if we were going to consider it, we'd have to look in more depth. to see, okay, who's he scoring against, what sort of goals is he scoring. Obviously, yeah, he's doing very well to get that amount of goals at his game. I think the club he plays for... See, this is a big thing. There was a thing a couple of years ago where Defoe scored a lot of goals in his season.
In the MLS, wasn't it? In Toronto.
Something like that. And everyone was like, well, bring him for England. But then, I think... Or he was playing with Sunderland or something. And sort of... I think the way it is with international football, if you play for Man U or Tottenham or Liverpool or Chelsea... you're going to have a better chance. I think there was something where...
Jermaine Genius as well. Talk about this.
Maybe, let's say, he scored like 15 goals for Sunderland in the season. And they go, that's pretty good. If he scored 15 goals for Man U, he would be in that England squad, without a doubt. But because of the club he's at, there's a sort of thing where that, well, are they easier goals, etc., etc. But I'm sure if Glenn Murray was playing for Man U this season and he scored those amount of goals, without a doubt he would be in that England lineup, I reckon.
Yeah.
But due to the club he's at, and obviously being easier to get in a Brighton squad than it is Man U, yes, it's less likely to happen. Should that be the case?
Yeah, I think it. I think he should be at least thought of to be in the England squad by Southgate, because where else do you go to? He's an English striker scoring goals, and you can't knock him, and he's doing it in one of the biggest leagues and the best leagues around, and where basically all England players kind of play their trade. So I think it is, he needs to be considered. I mean, I did actually come up with a kind of a little question about this. Does it raise a bigger question that we're having to rely on a 34-year-old striker into the England squad, and there's not many other out-and-out strikers? I mean, I know we've got Kane and Vardy, but beyond that, there's not a lot of Premier League English strikers scoring goals, and is that a problem? I mean, I have no problem with Murray doing really well and getting into the England squad, and my personal thought is I don't really mind that there's not many England players in the Premier League scoring goals at the moment, because it's kind of just a transition maybe period, but it is a kind of food for thought, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there are some Premier League players out there who have played for England, like the likes of Welbeck and Sturridge, who have both done well, but after sort of not getting into their first team, they've sort of lost it a bit. Haven't really got back into that sort of form that they once were. It's an interesting point. I think he's definitely in the consideration for it. But we just have to wait and see. If Kane's out, there's a very good chance he's in it. If Kane comes back and someone else...
It'd be harder for him, it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. Anyways, that kind of finishes our talk about Glenn Murray and comes to kind of our question of the week.
Yes, so I think Sam had asked me a question last week, and I think it was who is which club has scored the most goals
in a Premier League
season. I sort of thought about this for quite a while, and my sort of history on the Premier League is fairly recent. I sort of haven't really known that much previously. Obviously, I know that Liverpool played very well in sort of the 80s and 90s. I know they did score quite a lot of goals with Suarez up front. Then I think of Chelsea with the likes of Drogba and Anelka. City recently scoring lots of goals. Arsenal with the invincible season obviously would have had to score a lot to win in that. But I wasn't really sure, and I'm still not sure now. I think I'm going to go... No, I'm going to go Liverpool.
You are incorrect. It was Chelsea in the 2009-10 season with 103 goals.
Wow.
Yes, but it could be beaten this year, potentially, with Manchester City.
I was thinking that.
Definitely.
I think that would have been the Drogba era.
Yeah, it would have been, I think, and Anelka and Kalou.
Yeah, close, but not close
yes.
enough. And then I have a question for Sam, sorry. And my one is sort of related to West Brom.
Yep.
And it is the club, if you can guess it will be a bonus, but what is the lowest amount of points a club has got in a Premier League season? So obviously they're coming last, they got relegated down to the Championship. Who are they as a bonus, and how many points did they get? I knew this fact from quite a while ago, and I just thought it was a good question to ask.
Good question, yeah.
Very shocking how low the amount is.
Okay, I think I know, but I'll save it for next week, I think.
Indeed, and of course, if you people out there do know as well, you can let us know via Twitter at Box Commentary, or leave a comment on this video on YouTube.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. We certainly have enjoyed it, haven't we, Jake?
Yeah, it's been good. A bit ill, but
yes,
I'm getting there.
Yeah. Luckily, you didn't sneeze or cough over the mic, and but
yeah, I got them all out of the way just before.
Yeah, but hopefully you're feeling better for next week. I mean, I was ill last week, and hopefully none of us will have a cold next week, and we'll be on form.
A healthy podcast.
Yes, a healthy podcast is a good podcast, and we shall end you on that note. See ya.
See you next time.